Well, good morning, everyone. Officially, I'll call to order the regular meeting of the, this will come second, huh? Of the Coachella Valley Water District Board of Directors, June 25th, 2024, here in Coachella. And why don't we do this first? We have a remote attendee. So prior to roll call, I'd like to make clear for the record of this meeting, and it should be reflected in the minutes, that at least a portion of this board meeting is conducted pursuant to California Government Code Section 54953, in that Director Nelson is in Shafter, California, and will be participating by speakerphone. In accordance with the Ralph M. Brown Act, the teleconference location has been identified on the agenda for this meeting. I'd now like to ask Director Nelson to respond to some questions. Director Nelson, can you hear me well?
I can, Mr. Powell.
Good, yeah, and I can hear you also. Were you able to hear our proceedings on this end up until now?
I have.
Do you have a copy of the agenda?
I do, right here.
Have you posted it at your location?
I have posted.
Good. Is your location reasonably accessible to the public such that any member of the public could participate in this teleconference from your location if he or she wished to do so?
Yes.
Good. Is there any member of the public with you that would like to participate?
No one here today.
Okay, well, let us know if someone shows up.
I will.
And thanks. As a reminder, all votes will be taken by a roll call vote. And let's see, we're going to actually, why don't we do the Pledge of Allegiance and then we'll do roll call. So please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good. Roll call, please.
Yes, good morning, President Powell.
Here.
Vice President Estrada will be absent for today's meeting. Director Bianco.
Here.
Director Aguilar.
Here.
And Director Nelson.
Here.
Thank you.
Good. Do we have any additions, deletions, or adjustments for today's agenda?
No, sir.
Not aware of any. Is there anybody from the public wishing to comment at this time? We don't have any public. Seeing none? We do have a couple of anniversaries, one of whom's here. So the two that we have are Mark Young, Irrigation Water Specialist with 30 years, and Pablo Altamirano, Warp Operator 2 with 20 years. And given that Mark is here, we'll read the write-up and then have a photo. So Mark Young's journey at CVWD is as impressive as it is long. Mark started as a cross-connection service worker in 1994. He transitioned to the control center in 2005, where he rose through the ranks and has been the irrigation water specialist since 2021. His commitment to learning is evident through the certifications he's attained throughout the years: Water Distribution Operator 4, Treatment Operator 2, Cross-Connection Specialist, Water Efficiency Practitioner, and CVWD Supervision Leadership. In his role, Mark applies his experience and knowledge to daily duties, training, and data analysis in the control center. Mark's dedication to control is shown through his passion to develop and populate reports for tracking alarms, trending canal operations, training new control operators, finding nuances in alarm production, and his close scrutiny of the SCADA system to catch anomalies. With his help, CVWD will have reduced our nuisance SCADA alarms down from the millions in 2021 to about 200,000 by the end of this fiscal year. But Mark is a reliable contributor to the efficient operation of the control center, and as a result, also CVWD. So congratulations, come on up. There you are.
just want to say thank you to you and the board and everyone here. Many of you have been a critical part of my journey in supporting you.
Crucial part. We weren't that critical.
Yeah, okay. Well, critical and crucial. Oh, crucial is a better word. Thank you. Never been a wordsmith. But, and it's been an honor to work here all these years and to see the district grow and to be able to support and serve the control room and CBWD and the public. So thank you all. Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you for all your efforts,
Yeah.
especially on those alarms. We always had that problem with critical and crucial.
I think it was good usage, critical. I'll give him credit. All right. So this brings us to the consent calendar, items 6A through E. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
President Powell,
Aye.
Director Bianco,
Aye.
Director Aguilar,
Aye.
and Director Nelson.
Aye.
Thank you. 4-0.
Good. On to the action. 8A. Up, Carrie, come on up. This is a modification to our Colorado River Water Conservation Program. Go ahead.
Good morning, President Powell, directors of the board. I'm here to present. Okay, I'm here to present a potential modification to the existing Conserve Colorado River Water Conservation Program. We are at a point where we have gone through the first 1/2 year for 2024, as was approved in the February board meeting, and we've had essentially low participation. So we are approved through our agreement with Reclamation for up to 10,000 acre-feet per year, and in the year of 2024, we're going to have just over 1,000 acre-feet per year. And projecting forward with the participants that have expressed interest, that will look about 2,000 acre-feet per year in 2025 and 2026 if we do nothing. So what we're asking today is to open up the program to include non-permanent crops that would have to participate for the entire year, and authorize us to administer that open program and agree that those items are exempt from CEQA, which was already done and covered 10,000 acre-feet per year.
So you did say that you think you have participation to save around 2,000 acre-feet?
Yes.
Okay.
For 2025 and 2026.
Okay.
At this moment, yes, that's correct. So again, we went through that application status, and those closed about 1,000 acre-feet, and then we do have additional participation. We're only doing a 1/2 year in 2024, so one grower didn't want to participate, and the volumes are slightly smaller. So looking at that, those same participants for 25 and 26, it doubles to about 2,000 acre-feet per year. The resolution that we brought forward today, again, it does open to non-permanent crops that will have to participate for the full year. We have discussed this with Reclamation. It doesn't require any changes to our agreement with Reclamation. We've worked to make sure that provision 4.3 of the grower agreement ensures that there's no cultivation of other lands, so we don't see moving crops around, and we do have a method in place to look at the entire suite of participants' crops to ensure that that doesn't happen. Everything else actually remains the same. The process of locking out the meters, verification, payment, things like that, it just opens it up for full year participation in 2025 and or 2026 for non-permanent crops, and expands that. Again, our requested actions are to review these revised program rules to expand participation. If that's done, we'll go ahead and do some outreach to see if we can garner more participation to get closer to that 10,000 acre-feet per year. We do, just from initial outreach, expect that we would probably be able to double that, just from the feedback we got in the initial stages where folks did want to participate with non-permanent crops, but that wasn't an option. And so we'd like to hear what the board has to say on this action and move forward as directed.
Thank you.
I have some questions. How are we gonna ensure, for vegetable growers, a lot of vegetable growers rotate crops. And so they also rotate land.
Yes.
And so sometimes, what I'm trying to say is every other year, that parcel is farmed. How do we know that we're not paying for something that it's gonna be an off year, where they're not gonna plant there anyways?
I think that's a wonderful question, and what we've done is we have provision 4.3 to not cultivate other lands during that time, and so the process that we went through, even with the permanent crops, is we looked at the entire suite of lands owned by the participants, even the ones that were not participating. We looked at the 5-year total consumption on those crops and created kind of a, hey, this is a marker that if your total usage on all of your crops participating and following and non-participating exceeds this number, then we need to have a discussion. We spoke with Reclamation to see how other entities that are participating with non-permanent crops are doing that, and that is consistent with the other methodology, and they agreed with that. So again, it's not just looking at the parcels that are participating, but it is looking at all of the parcels that are owned by those growers to ensure that that exact thing is not happening.
No, I understand what you're saying when you're saying about someone going somewhere else and planting the crop, but I'm talking about on that parcel, on that particular parcel. There's land that sits fallow for a year because it's the grower's choice, because of what type of crop. So say it's carrots, where they don't plant carrots back to back. They rotate from ranch to ranch to ranch, and then they come back to that ranch maybe every other year or every 2 years. That's what I'm worried about, that on those off years where the ranch may sit idle for a whole year without planting anything, that we're not paying them for that.
And actually, thank you. One other item that we do have that both we and Reclamation verify in order to ensure that the participating crops are eligible is we go back in the 5 years of satellite data to ensure that they have been used during the
Sure.
past 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's good.
your example, I'm not too worried about that type of example because this is a calendar year program, so you have to be out for the full year.
That's correct.
So if you're gonna rotate a crop, let's say you harvest in April, you're not gonna get credit for that year because you were growing the crop in that year.
Correct.
So you'd have to be out all the way through, let's say you're gonna fallow it. You'd be out after you harvest, so you'd be out at least 6-7 months. Then you'd have to be out the entire calendar year after that, which really prevents you from planting anything else, because you got to irrigate ahead of time and all that. So you wouldn't be able to wait until the following January and then get another crop in. There are some crops you can plant in January, but you still need to do groundwork and things that require water.
Well, the calendar year it's not going to be a calendar year, it's whenever they decide to start it, correct?
It is, right?
It's a calendar
It's
year,
calendar year.
January through December.
So that really makes
Okay.
it
You're right.
difficult to game. My concern, and I brought this up at a prior meeting, is that, and I think I guess I'm just reemphasizing that absentee landlords who aren't growers are not eligible in this, right? I mean, this is essentially the water user is the one that's going to curtail the use of water.
Yes, that is correct.
Not the landlord, yeah.
Yeah.
Just on permanent crops, this kind of I've been talking to a few different people. On permanent crops, so let's say that somebody has not applied yet, and they pulled out the trees or vines or whatever it is, last year, but they haven't planted anything else. Can they still apply? I mean, what's the timing as far as, how far in the past can you have last irrigated to be eligible? It's like, oh, these trees have been gone for a while. I mean, how far back do we look?
So for 2024, we looked at 19 through 23. So we'll probably make that a moving target to make sure it's
So
closed
you're-
for new participants.
Right, and so you're gonna throw out the high and the low, so if they didn't let's say they took out the trees at the end of 22, they irrigated in 22, but not in 23. So 23 would be the low year,
Yeah,
right? So it's gonna get thrown out anyways.
that's correct. Yep.
Huh, yeah, okay. I mean, I don't know that it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just trying to understand, what are the rules of the road as far as, whether, whether somebody's acquiring a piece of property that used to have trees on it and say, oh, do they get credit for the prior owner's water use?
Yes, we look at the parcels
The parcel.
prior use.
Yeah.
If it hasn't been in ownership the entire time, we look at the parcels use.
I mean, we have to be careful because this is real water.
No, I know.
I mean, this is gonna be a reduction of how much water comes into this valley, whatever we sign up for, and it has to be real, because, if not, it's gonna come out of someone else's bucket. Right?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
staff retains discretion not to let a contract. So if we have a situation like that presented, they can refuse to let the contract. This is not an all-comers program.
No, I get it. I
So
get it.
if staff sees something like that, they can say, no, we're not going to let a contract.
It's like studying traffic, I mean, you make one little change here and it's amazing how people adapt to it and find another way around it. And, there's no way to sit here and figure out all the ways somebody's gonna try to get the money,
Right.
whether they do anything for it or not. I mean, you're gonna do as little as possible to get the money. And, I mean, I guess the only thing that really matters to us is that, because they're gonna cut our water order by this amount.
That's correct.
We just
do
need to
have
make
reduce
sure
the
that
water.
that's a real savings.
Yes.
And not being used somewhere else. So, we had a good conversation with this one that you were working with, and it seemed to work out well. And once they understand the whole point of, because that's a lot of visibility that we're gonna have on somebody's operation.
That's correct.
Some of these operations are pretty complicated, and we wanna know globally how much water you're using, and you're not replacing this somewhere else.
What are the terms of the payment? It's not on here, is there?
It's in the agreement that you get paid twice a year. I forget.
Yeah,
what it
you
is.
get paid twice a year. First one happens after the lockout of the meter, and then the second one happens after verification by both us and Reclamation. Mid-year.
John, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Please. So, I'm just curious, do we have any idea, based on the work that's been done, what the potential applicant participant pool is? Is it 100 participants? Is it 500? It's like, what is the base foundation of participation potential that we're looking at?
So for 2024, we have 3 participants. For 2025 and 2026, at this point, we have 4 participants. I expect that we may double that to 8 participants if we do proceed with opening this up to non-permanent crops.
Yeah, you'll get more. I think you're gonna get more than 5,000 acre feet. It may not get to 10.
I agree.
Yeah, with this change.
Okay.
Yeah, so speculative though.
Yeah.
I think there's people that you haven't spoken with yet.
So let me just ask a question again, because I'm still a little leery on what we're talking about on permanent crops or on vegetable crops. So you're gonna use a 5-year history of water consumption, and that's gonna be their average. Okay,
You're gonna throw out the high and the low, and the 3 remaining are the average.
Okay. So you could have had a permanent crop for 3 years, the first 3 years, pulled it out the 4th year, and it's still idle the 5th year, okay? And have no plans to plant and get paid for that 3 years.
I'm aware of one that's exactly like that.
That's the loophole right there. That's the problem with this.
Yeah.
That somebody who has no plans to plant could actually get paid for water.
Yeah, but at the same time, there are those that have plans to plant that might defer those plans in order to save the water and get paid. So, I mean, it cuts both ways. And yeah, there is that concern about gaming that part of the system, and I think that's where the discretionary side of what the district has in its ability to approve or not approve a contract is comes into play. Now they can't read the minds of the companies, but I think I think there's enough guardrails on there that we'll get reasonable participation, and we'll just have to try and work through some of those issues. I know that there's with the conservation programs in other areas, there's a lot of that concern as well, and there's some visible areas that happen that we haven't even thought about, that I've seen take place in other conservation areas, either in the Imperial Valley and it's just, you have to stay on top of it and keep in contact with the landowners that are, in the program. It looks like we have a pretty small pool that we can do that on a fairly efficient basis.
Okay. I hear you. I just,
Yeah.
Permanent crops nowadays, you're ordering. It's not like you're just going to go out to a seed dealer and buy seed or plants that they have them in stock. I mean, the way things are getting so technical, it's a year in advance. So,
I know, but you may have somebody with a lemon ranch that market hasn't been too good, and they're thinking, well, we'll just keep the trees alive for a few more years, and maybe the market will get better. And this program, they might say, well, I could push my trees now and get paid.
Well, it'll be interesting.
And I think you'll see some of that.
It'll be interesting to see how many get actually pushed out, or actual people get signed up for stuff they haven't planted yet.
Right.
That's going to be the.
Well, I'm aware of one of those.
That's the difference.
But
down in the Yuma area, there were about 2,500 acres of citrus that was pushed out with a program like this, and I'm not quite sure all the rules of the road down there, but it was a substantial amount of acres that were pushed with those fields that were on the bubble, and they had a temporary reduction of their water use, which is what we're after in terms of protecting the critical lake levels at Mead and Powell. So it worked rather well. So I'm hopeful that we get up closer to the 10,000 than not the 10,000. But if we have 8 participants with 4,000 or 5,000 acre feet of water, it's a help to the system.
Yeah. It's also kind of a learning experience. I mean, that's where IID's been doing this for a long time. Palo Verde. I mean, these guys. I know their program's different, but
very true.
But they don't get it right the first year, so we're in that stage right now. I think I'm supportive of it. Yeah, well, we'll probably adjust. I mean, we are adjusting. This is a proposed adjustment right here. I'm all right with it. I can't say there won't be unintended consequences and third-party impacts that we haven't figured out yet. We're gonna see those, but it is a fairly small program, so they won't be huge. Okay, is there a motion to approve 8A?
Yeah, I'll move approval for item 8A.
Yeah, I'll second that here. Any other discussion? Okay, then roll call, please.
Sure. President Powell,
Aye.
Director Bianco.
Aye.
Director Aguilar,
Aye.
and Director Nelson.
Aye.
4-0.
Pass
Thank you.
4-0.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Nelson and Powell.
a lot there.
I guess.
8B, this is, who
This is
wants
me.
to take
I
this
guess
one?
I'll do it from here. Yeah, Jeff
You're
can
the
chime in.
expert on registrars.
I wouldn't say expert, but I know a little. Good morning, board members. Before you, I have a request for 2 resolutions in regards to the November 5th, 2024 election. We do have 2 seats that will be up for election. We have Division 2 and Division 4. And so as part of that, we will request from the Riverside County Registrar of Voters to consolidate our election. And that does require that our board approve a resolution calling for the election, and then secondly, notifying the election that any candidate running for office is responsible for paying candidate statements. And then as part of that, as part of our budget process, we did allocate funds to cover the expenses for this election. Should one of our incumbents run unopposed, then obviously the expenses are significantly less. We don't have to pay for a lot of that. They would just be nominated or appointed versus actually having to go out for an election.
Right, right. And to be clear, I know that back in the dark ages, the district used to pay for the candidate statements.
Many agencies
We don't do that anymore.
We do not.
I
That's
mean,
what
I
that
guess-
second
yeah.
resolution is
Yeah.
it notifies the registrar that a candidate is responsible should they choose to file a written statement, a candidate statement, that candidate is responsible for those fees.
Right.
And then with that, I'll just add the official nomination period opens on July 15th and it runs through August 9th. August 9th is also the last day for the district to be able to call or request the county to consolidate, but we're just doing it a little bit earlier because we do have maps to file, boundaries to file, and things of that nature. So we want to get those filed
Yeah.
as early as possible.
So can a candidate pull papers here with you?
Yes, so I do request that the Registrar of Voters allow myself to meet with candidates and go over the paperwork. However, the paperwork does have to be filed with the Riverside Registrar of Voters.
In person,
In
in
person,
Riverside?
correct.
Yeah,
I think it's off Day Street. I forget.
Gateway.
Yeah, Gateway. Yep.
Been there many times.
Yep. So, yeah.
Sylvia,
Kind of
Yeah.
archaic how you have to go in there, you know?
Sylvia, before I make a motion
Sure.
to approve these, can both resolutions be approved in one motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because it's the same county. If we had different counties
Yeah.
involved, we do separate.
I
In
got
the
you.
past, when
Okay.
we have Division 5, we do have to do this with Riverside, Imperial, and San Diego, because a portion of Division 5 does go into San Diego and Imperial County, so it's a little different that time, but in this case, it's just the Riverside County Registrar of Voters that will
Okay.
be handling the election for us.
Okay, with that then, I would move approval of item B, approving both resolutions.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll second that. Roll call vote, please.
Sorry. President Powell,
Aye?
Director Bianco.
Aye.
Director Aguilar.
Aye.
And Director Nelson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, passed 4-0. On to 8C, which is the accounts payable signatures. Carla?
Good
go
morning,
ahead.
board members. Today, we're requesting to open up an additional checking account within our current U.S. bank. Give me 1 second, there you go. Our bank account, we currently have a payroll account and we have a general account, and we're trying to open up a third account for accounts payable because of the increased amount of potential fraud that we're seeing. We get pinged almost daily basis, sometimes about 10, 15 times a week with potential fraudulent checks. And the general account currently is where all of those accounts payable checks are paid from. And what happens is if we actually have had 2 fraudulent checks in the last 6 months. One was paid back from the bank and the other is currently in active investigation. But if we continue to have them and we have to switch our bank accounts, we would also have to switch all of the incoming deposits. And that's our biggest concern, right? Property taxes, grant revenues, things that are really difficult to change, require extensive amount of time to change. And so we're proposing to have this additional account. It would act similar to the payroll account. It wouldn't have a balance on an ongoing basis. It grabs money from that general account once all the checks are validated at the end of the day and then zeroes it out. We normally keep about $3 million within our general account, and we transfer monies in and out on a weekly basis depending on the amount of volume of transactions occurring every week. There's no changes to the authorized signers, but internally we are proposing to have a rotation of those signers. Jim and Sylvia have been the signers on the checks for some time. As an additional precautionary measure, we are requesting to, we'll also be rotating those. Dan and Robert and myself are also check signers, so none of those would change. So we'd probably add Dan and Robert next, or Jim and Robert, or some sort of rotation.
So, I mean, how, do we have vendors that we pay by ACH? I mean, or is it mostly checks or?
We do. I actually went back and I was looking at that. On average, we issue about 5,600 checks per year, and we do about 3,500 ACH transactions. So
5,600, so about
Yes.
100 a week, something like that. Have you looked, or do they offer positive pay?
we do. We have positive pay, and that's where every day about 5 to 10 transactions are being alerted. Some we do reject because their check has been altered or maybe the amount has been altered. Those are far and few in between. Usually there's an ampersand, or the name is too long, or there's an abbreviation or a period. That's usually what prompts the positive pay to come up. But we do, on a daily basis, review all of the transactions for that particular case. And then we also have, it's called kind of a reverse positive pay, where even incoming money, if you're not on a list of approved vendors like the county or a grant, we get alerted. Just the other day, we received an insurance deposit for a claim reimbursement, and it was quite significant, and the bank stopped it. Even though it was incoming funds, it said, are you sure this is your money? Because once they have your bank account and you verified it, they could do the reverse and try to take money out. And so there's a lot of that happens. We also have, as mentioned here on the slide, the auditors also review our bank account. Internally, we get notifications, I get notifications, email and text message regarding lots of this positive pay, wires, incoming monies. Yeah, so lots of eyes on the
Yeah,
account.
no, it's a very active fraud area. So,
It is, and it's increasing, so this is just another
checks.
mechanism to try to prevent that from occurring.
Yeah, I get it. No, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Is there a motion to approve C?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Good. Roll call, please.
President Powell,
Aye.
Director Bianco,
Aye.
Director Aguilar,
Aye.
and Director Nelson.
Aye.
Thank you, 4-0.
Thank you.
Aye. D, insurance.
Blanca, good morning.
Go ahead. I just renewed my insurance in my business and it was painful.
So you
So
understand.
I do, we need to be obviously good stewards of the dollar, of our ratepayers' dollar, but my gosh. Yeah, what can you do? The market, this insurance market in California is horrible.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you. So this board action item is for the property and casualty coverage for the next fiscal year, 24-25, in the amount of $3,601,744. That does include a 2.5% contingency in case, those quotes get withdrawn before the renewal on July 1st. Any questions?
That's great.
No, can you talk about, I was reading through in the presentation, there were some talk about $1 million self-insured retention, and then you guys wanted to keep it at 250,000
For the,
on auto? Was that auto or was
there's a
it?
few. Yeah,
there?
probably the auto. So this is the first time that we actually get a quote, right, in 5 years.
Yeah.
So the options were, we can get $1 million retention for $1 million in coverage, which, at that point. I think I did a report in the last I think in the last year, we paid $30,000 in auto accidents or claims that we've had to pay out. So, I mean, it doesn't make sense to pay that much, you know, for.
So it'll be $250,000. So is that across the board, the retention is $250,000, or are there different levels?
For that same policy? No, each policy has a different
They
retention.
each have different amounts.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand, how do you decide what?
Each
which
policy
Yeah,
is.
which one gets how much?
No, each policy is marketed on its own. So each carrier will give us options for deductibles or self-insured retentions. So we have everything from $250,000 to $500,000. We don't have any at $1 million.
Okay.
The excess policy was, Aegis was suggesting a $1 million SIR, but we stuck to the $250,000, which kind of also led to the increase in premium.
Oh, that was on the excess policy. That's
Yes.
right. I remember
Mhm.
that now. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We don't have much of a choice.
It's expensive. Yeah,
It's
no,
expensive.
well, yeah, you can go self-insured. I don't think that's a good idea. I wouldn't. All right, so we're looking for a motion to approve this very expensive insurance.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? Director Nelson?
No, I'm just kind of surprised it's taken them this long, but to get up to a 50% premium increase, we've had a number of issues over the years. So yeah, I'm supportive of the payment.
Yeah, I'm surprised they're still in, to be honest, on Aegis. All right, so there's a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
President Powell,
Aye.
Director Bianco,
Aye.
Director Aguilar,
Aye.
and Director Nelson.
Aye.
Thank you, 4-0.
4-0.
Thank you.
Written communication. What did I have in here?
There was not one included in the packet, however, there should have been one, I apologize, and so I distributed that to the board. It's part of your packet, it's been resolved. It was
Yeah,
one you
okay.
saw previously.
Thank you.
Mhm.
10A, Board General Comments. Director Nelson?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, Board General Comments?
Um,
You're on.
no real comments this morning. Thanks.
Okay, Director Aguilar,
No comments, John.
Director Bianco.
No comments.
Okay. Guess I don't have much to say either. If I could only figure out why Taylor Swift is so popular, that would, you, it's like you'd have the keys to the kingdom if you just knew what that formula is. All right, that's my only comment. It's true though. Oh, I'm not saying I want to be like that. I just want to be able to generate the revenue that she generates. All right, board requests for future agenda items. Okay, board meeting reports. First one on the list is June 12th meeting with 2x2 with Rancho Mirage. Director Aguilar, go ahead if you want to.
Thanks, John. Yeah, we had actually, it was a long time coming, but a meeting with the city of Rancho Mirage, their mayor, was it
Steve Downs.
Downs.
Steve Downs and Wheel
Feel.
were there, and a couple of the senior staff members. And the primary item of discussion was the slope improvement requirement for that affordable housing project that is being proposed. And I think we left with everyone feeling as though there were some possibilities for some accommodation on that, and we're waiting for the report to come in July, and then we'll probably get back to them. So other than that, it was everything was pretty much routine.
Okay, good. I agree. I was there. Colorado River Board, Director Nelson.
Yeah, no, thanks, John. We had the Colorado River Board meeting in San Diego. Long ways to get there. It was a good meeting. Christopher Harris announced his retirement upcoming, and so we had an executive session to discuss the process by which we would advertise that position. There was a duties sheet passed out, which is a job description. And so going forward, we wanted to have the board come back and discuss the process as well as the duty sheet. So I took a stab at it and then have forwarded to Jim and Robert for the general managers to comment on it, and hopefully they can get together with the other managers and put some thought and effort into exactly what they hope to see out of a executive director. So it's at that level, and we were scheduled to have not a July meeting, but it looks like we'll get together for an executive session to go over that process and description. So that was pretty much the bulk of the meeting.
Thank you. And we also had the 6-agency committee on the list.
Yeah, so we did have the 6-agency committee as well as the Colorado River Authority, so those were pretty much just to approve the minutes and so forth. Although there was an approval of $50,000 contribution to the Colorado River of California Authority, which is a kind of a educational and organization, a subset of the Colorado River Board. So there was a call for $50,000 for public information funds, of which we're a percentage of that with the other 5 contractors. So we approved that, and CVWD will see that invoice coming through.
Thank you. Director Bianco, June 13th, CVCC.
So they've signed an agreement with the University of California, Davis to study what it would take for a wildlife crossing on the I-10 freeway in Banning. They're looking at Banning. So I don't know if you've been to Canada, you know what I mean, where they have those all over, where they have these wildlife crossings. It's like a bridge for the wildlife. And
In LA, too.
I haven't seen them in LA, but John's saying there is. But they're going to look at that, and then they acquired 48 acres in Mission Creek for conservation, put in the program.
Then you also had
I was not there for
the energy system.
I was not there for that.
Okay. June 20th, Director Aguilar, Salton Sea Authority.
Thanks, John. So the Salton Sea Authority meeting did not generate a quorum, so there was no action items that we could discuss. However, there were a couple of reports. One of them, for me anyway, the most interesting was from Horacio, who is our legislative lobbyist, reporting on the potential placing of the general obligation ballot in November that would generate some significant dollars for the Salton Sea. There does not appear to be any kind of agreement between both houses at the state level on the amount, let alone getting a bill prepared and in place by this week, which is the deadline for getting the bill to the governor. So it doesn't sound very optimistic. Unless something changes very quickly this week, it doesn't look very good. However, there is a special meeting that's been called for later this week for the authority, in part to elect officers for the new year.
Okay. Good. Also, I guess later that same day you had a meeting with the Kiddo City.
We did. We met with, at their request, we met with the city manager and with John Corella, their city engineer, myself, Jim, Dan as well, to discuss any potential assistance we could provide them with dealing with their homelessness issue in the Wash. And ultimately, I think we all agreed. I think we shared with them some information they did not have, which I think was eye-opening for them to indicate that there are significant differences in terms of ownership interest along the wash, and that this was going to be kind of a regional problem that needed to be discussed, perhaps at CVAG's level. And I think we were going to try to facilitate that meeting. But they are particularly concerned about the problems under the bridges, which is an ongoing issue, and they talked about the significant amount of dollars that they put forth to clean up. But there's I think, a sense of urgency about doing something, particularly with the encampments under the bridges, because the CV Link, the final piece of it, will be going under the bridges. And so that creates a safety issue. So there's going to be ongoing discussions about how to mitigate that.
Big problem. Thank you. Let's see, Director Nelson, California Farm Water Coalition.
Yeah, that meeting was yesterday, John. It was via Zoom. We had some really good reports about our social media campaigns. About in the last 6 weeks, we've reached like 1.7 million accounts and had about 1,500 new followers on the various accounts, as well as return engagement onto our website. So it seems like that social media campaign is going. It's not really a campaign; it's kind of ongoing communication. So it's going really well in there. And then we also discussed the possibility of raising some dues. It's an ongoing conversation we've had this year for the following year. For full district membership, the dues are 15 cents an acre, which is what CBWD has paid. The thought would be to go to 20 cents per acre. And so we're discussing those, the benefits of memberships, as well as the different voting member blocks, individuals, full district membership, associate districts, and so forth. So it's an ongoing process. The district or the coalition hasn't raised rates since like 2000, so it's been over 20 years. So it's some discussion going on out there, and as you can understand, with everything else, it's a long discussion because no one wants to raise rates like that. So I'll keep you updated on that.
Thank you.
Director Nelson, we did have that flyer up. Did you want to speak on that? The flyer that you sent me?
Yeah, why don't you pull that up? This
Okay.
is
It's up
this
on
is
one
some of the
screen. You
work-
won't be able to see it. Sorry.
This is some of the work that that the coalition is doing, and I think it's very interesting. And this is a Mexico profile. We're the coalition's going to do a Chilean profile here soon, and so I wanted to share this. This is some interesting facts about the amount of imports that are in the marketplace today, and obviously an increase in the percentage of Mexican imports or a decrease of American product, and no one knows that more firsthand than Coachella Valley, as we have competing markets. But as you can see from this graph, the import of fruits and vegetables, I can't read it very well. There we go. So yeah, it's down about 8%, 8% in the 90s, and now it's up to 38% for fresh fruits, 36% on fresh fruits, up to 60% in 2023. So obviously, the U.S. is losing some of its market presence, and that causes for all kinds of issues related to employment data, water use, and so forth. So I hope you find this interesting, but at the same time, you can see from the bottom map that there are also water issues pressing in Mexico, and this shows some of the sustainable and unsustainable areas water use, groundwater use in the country of Mexico and in those states as well. So these are I think hot button issues for California water use, and making a case that water use in California is good for employment and communities and the economy, and we're losing some of that to other unsustainable countries that will have issues going forward themselves. And so we do need to protect food production in the United States as a matter of I would say, food security across the country. So I hope this is helpful, and that's some of the things that the coalition is up to.
Can you send that to us?
Yeah, I'll get you a better better resolution copy to that. I'll send it to Jim. He could send it out.
I have the PDF, Director Nelson. It's just the screen because it's on Zoom and it's being streamed, so it kind of alters it. But I have the
Oh, okay.
PDF that we have, and I'll go ahead
Okay.
and forward that to the board.
Okay, great. Thanks.
The biggest problem I see in this, and I've known this, but it's eye-opening to see it put in paper and graphs and percentages, is that the retailers need to support California growers. It costs more money. Our minimum wage is $15.50 an hour, and going up. And in Mexico, it's that per day or less. And so, California consumers are going to have to make a choice. Is it worth that we're reliant on another country to feed us in the future, or is it important, like we've seen with our drugs and our semiconductors and different things that we learned through COVID, that it is important that these things are made here, and that it may cost us a little bit more money, but it's more important that we're self-sufficient and we're not worried and we're not relying on other countries to feed us. Because a lot of these things that leave California, it's really hard to bring them back. I mean, this valley used to have asparagus, used to have 12 million boxes of grapes. Now it's got 2, and it's gone, and it's not coming back. So we've got other crops here that hopefully don't fall into that same kind of trap. That's just the reality, and Coachella Valley gets hit first because we're a small window in time, and Mexico's filling the gap. In a lot of that red area that you see on that map, that is our area that is the same as the Coachella Valley, right in that northern, if you're northern part of Mexico where it's deep red. That's our area right there, the Hermosillo, Caborca area. That area is exactly like the Coachella Valley.
Peter, is there data on that lower half of this sheet? The water thing is pretty interesting. Do they have supporting data for that? When they say unsustainable, what does that mean?
So if you go to the USDA, in fact, this is where the data is coming from, John. So I'm assuming that that the USDA data is going to be, they're the ones describing this, so it's not the coalition that's out there, placing these titles on. This is a slide from the USDA in there. So they have the data, and I think when I first came to Coachella in 1987, a few years back, Anthony's right. We had nearly 12 to 15 million boxes of grapes in Coachella, and Mexico had less than 1 million, and it's just flip-flopped in there. And in those, I heard back then, oh yeah, Mexico's just, don't worry, Mexico's going to run out of water. And so it's been going on for a long time, and they've managed to keep irrigating the crop. So, I have no data for that, but the USDA has cobbled together some things, and I haven't seen the data here, but it's noted.
Yeah, actually, if you read the small print, which I can see, it says it's year 2000 sustainability classifications, which is 24 years old. That's a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, that's prior to the drought on the Colorado River.
yeah, and we've been in drought since then, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And they're still growing the crop. So there must something. I mean, I would guess sustainability refers. I always figure it refers to they must be depleting their groundwater resources. I mean, I don't know if they even have groundwater resources in a lot of these areas. I don't know.
Yeah, I do know in some of the other areas in Mexico there that are blue actually are having some significant water challenges as dependent on storms in there, and so between storms there's significant challenges because it's dry and hot, and so yeah, I mean very much similar to the flood and drought cycles that California has.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Thank you. I know. See if we have other meetings to report. I had one other one, June 17th, Desert Valleys Builders Association Board, and I mean they're doing their big membership drive right now, or getting ready to do it very soon, which they don't do that often, so that's kind of interesting. And then I did mention I didn't bring it up to the whole board, but I did share information with Gretchen, our executive director, about some tampering that we've had from builders that are getting caught tampering with our domestic water system.
Hot taps.
Hot taps, yeah.
Hot taps.
Yikes.
So I guess they're being fined according to our rules and regs. But she was happy to have the information. I don't know if those are members or not. But anyways, any other meetings?
Yeah, John, I had a couple if I could.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, so after the CRB meeting, Dr. Chang and I had some discussion on June 17th about the process for which the CRB is taking and how the general managers can play a part in that. So that was on the 17th. On the 20th of the month, had a landowner delivery review with Mr. Barrett, Mr. Charlton, regarding some short and long-term deliveries out in the Oasis area. As many of you will remember, some of those long deliveries are subject to easements and facilities installations from other landowners, as parcels are subdivided from the original 40 acres that received water. Let's say they're divided into 10. Somebody ends up with the meter and the other 3 don't. And so we were discussing some situations out in the Oasis to La Quinta interface there on some property that's for sale. I'm not involved in any of that, but helping out some other landowners there understand that. And then on the 21st, I attended a Sites Authority meeting via Zoom. Very insightful meeting. It was all informational items. But as some of you may know, that they're kind of scheduled to keep up the work through the end of 2025, and all of the funds that they've collected, and the last cash call in the first of in January 2025 to CVWD, so $40 an acre foot. That's their last cash call, and they're scheduled to pretty much run out of money at the end of 2025. And so a lot of that project depends on whether or not the administrative hearing officer recommends of the State Water Resources Control Board, recommends to the full board whether a permit should be issued or not. And so in anticipation for that, there's an August 19th meeting at the Administrative Hearing Office. It's on Zoom as well, to receive policy statements from different organizations about how they'll be entering that administrative hearing process to deliberate whether a permit for diversion for Sites Reservoir should be granted or not. And so it's a big deal. So that process kicks off August 19th. And then, so what if a permit is granted? Then the CVWD would be looking at signing a benefits and obligations contract to that. That'll be the commitment to future financial contributions to build the project. So that's kind of a timeline going forward, and very interesting meeting to be a part of. And then, so that was on the 21st. So that's my last report. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? Is there a motion to approve the meetings reported on?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor, or roll call?
Yes. President Powell.
Aye.
Director Bianco.
Aye.
Director Aguilar.
Aye.
And Director Nelson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye, aye, aye. General Manager.
Yes, sir. I understand the board members have recently had some problems getting access to their email. I think we've figured out an alternative. So if you can give us your device, we can attempt to get you back online. And it's just, it comes with the fact that we're updating software and increasing our security controls. And I apologize for the inconvenience that it's caused, but I think we've got a workable solution now that should help.
Hey, Mr. Barrett, could I comment on that?
Aye, sir.
Yeah, okay, so I appreciate the need for, security protocols and so forth, and I know we're all smirking about this, but it's so frustrating with several devices, whether it's a couple different computers, an iPad, a iPhone, and so forth, but to be required to sign in and verify on a different device, which may or may not be accessible at all times. So the process is it's after a couple hours of non-activity, then there's a requirement to sign on, and I've got alerts coming out of my ears on do this and do that, and I just find it too cumbersome in there to do that. And so I'm wondering, I'm involved with other Microsoft Exchange accounts and Apple accounts that have similar protocols, but don't require it on an hourly basis, more like on a weekly and monthly basis, which I would like the district to take a bona fide look at in terms of what could be done to eliminate some of these hourly processes to sign in. So that's my comment.
Yes, sir. Understood.
Yeah, I was getting a notice. It never worked, but it said through Microsoft, I guess, when I was signing in, that you could click the box to say, "Don't ask me again for 30 days," but then it would ask you again an hour later. Yeah.
That's right, John. That's right.
Wishful thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Luis. I mean, we already have security on our, unless you knock me out cold and then hold it up to my face, you're not going to get into my phone.
This is Luis, Director of IT. I do again apologize for the inconvenience. As Mr. Vera alluded, is part of the transition that we're going through as well, and we're trying to dial down the best way to secure the devices but give you the flexibility. We have been using another app called Secure Login. This was prior to the cloud solution we have now in place because it was an on-prem solution. So now we are transitioning to Microsoft Office 365 because you really don't have a choice anymore, right? You kind of have to go to the cloud. And so some of it is new to us. We are obviously a little concerned because we see all the news, water utilities are specifically targeted for this. One of the reasons we try to be a little more strict when it comes to like Outlook web access is because if you're, let's say, vacationing and then you log in into a public kiosk and you access email, a lot of times the system doesn't kick you out, so it keeps you connected. So we time it out, but obviously that's different from your device. So we're trying to balance, how you access it through the apps in the devices versus the web and things like that. Now, I did send the board an email yesterday with my personal phone number and email to cut down some of the frustration trying to reach out to IT. So if you have any issues like that, feel free to reach out to me directly, and I will appoint staff to help you right away. And so we will get it right, and I will take your comments, Director Nelson, and I think we can make some exceptions for like the board and extend it to a weekly basis or something like that. We'll look at that, and I'll send you an update later in the week. Thank you. Sorry again.
No, I think you're doing a great job. It's obviously, I mean, this is a hot button issue. I mean, we heard from the bankers this morning that they're having similar problems. So I totally appreciate the need for the security, Luis, and I'm not being critical. I'm just trying to express frustration. And I know that in another instance where we're in a company I'm with, we have those similar concerns, and they use a Global Connect software that offers VPN services on public Wi-Fi networks, and so that may be helpful as well. So I appreciate your ongoing efforts in there, and I know it's a huge challenge.
Okay, good. Anything else?
No, sir, nothing else.
Council report.
Yes, just wanted to mention two items that you probably have read about in the news. One is the Delta Conveyance Project. As we all know, this is the tunnel project, and it received a EIR that has been certified. So DWR was proceeding to do some soils investigations and some preliminary work. Counties in the Delta area objected to that and filed for an injunction that said any investigation or preliminary work would still require a compliance with the Delta Reform Act and the Delta Stewardship Council. DWR said, well, we need to do these investigations to find out what it is that we're doing before we seek that certification. The court disagreed and ruled that there is an injunction from even doing the early on investigations as part of the DCP. So we'll see where that goes or not. The other item, as you may have read, the Taxpayer Protection Act. This was to be in the series of Prop 13, Prop 218, and this TPA, as they called it, would have made some major changes to the way that fees and taxes are imposed by local agencies and by the state, would change the burden of proof from a preponderance of the evidence to clear and convincing evidence to determine actual costs before fees can be adopted. That's just one example. In a very unique and rare case, this ballot initiative was challenged by the governor and by the state as being unconstitutional to even include on the ballot. And the California Supreme Court took it up directly and ruled last week that yes, indeed, it is unconstitutional and will not be on the ballot this November. They made a distinction between an amendment to the California Constitution, and they considered Prop 13 and Prop 218 to amend the Constitution, but did not revise it. If the initiative seeks to revise the California Constitution, it's required to be proposed by the legislature and gone through a constitutional convention. I mean, there are arguments that Prop 13 and 218 probably did more than just amend, but at the end of the day, the California Supreme Court disagreed with those arguments and agreed that it was a revision of the Constitution, would have made some major changes to the way that the Constitution operated, and therefore it was kept off the ballot. You know, that's good news or bad news depending on your point of view. So those are the two items I wanted to report on. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Departmental reports?
No, sir.
Okay, at this time, the board will recess into closed session to consider items 13A through D. We will reconvene following closed session to report out. The regular meeting is hereby reconvened. We do not have any reportable action from closed session, and with no further business, we are adjourned.
Do we need to